Look, building an AI strategy is probably one of the biggest calls your organization is going to make. If you nail it, you unlock some massive potential. But if you get it wrong, you really risk getting left in the dust. So over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the critical choices that are going to define your AI future.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the one big choice that really shapes everything else. Then we'll jump into that classic on-prem versus cloud debate, figure out how to handle vendor risk, define who's actually responsible for what, and then wrap it all up with a solid practical framework for AI governance.
So let's get right to the heart of the matter. A winning AI program, it doesn't start with a shiny new server or a clever bit of code. Nope, it starts with a strategic business decision. You have to remember, the tech is there to serve the strategy, not the other way around. And that brings us to the fundamental question, the one that frames this entire conversation. What are you truly optimizing for? Are you going for maximum control? Total command over your data, your security, your hardware? Or are you shooting for maximum scalability, that ability to spin resources up or down whenever you need to? That's the core trade-off, right there.
And that choice, control versus scalability, it leads you directly to the first huge decision point for any procurement team or cloud architect. Where is this all going to live?
Really, this comes down to two totally different philosophies. Going on-premise, well, that's like building your own custom fortress. You have absolute, granular control over every single wall and gate. Cloud-hosted, on the other hand, is more like plugging into a massive shared power grid. It gives you incredible flexibility without the headache of having to build the power plant yourself. This is where the rubber meets the road on that trade-off. Choosing on-prem means you're all in on control and custom performance, but wow, that comes with a seriously high price tag, both in dollars and in finding the specialized people to run it. The cloud just flips that whole equation. You give up some control, you take on new risks like getting locked in with a vendor, but in return you get massive scalability and way lower upfront costs. The key thing to get here is that neither one is better. The right choice depends completely on what you decided was your priority, control or scalability.
Okay, so let's say your strategy is leaning toward the cloud. Well, the conversation immediately changes. All of a sudden, you're not just managing tech anymore. You're managing relationships, you're managing vendors, and you're managing third-party risk. This is way more than a procurement checklist. It's a huge piece of your entire governance strategy. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote absolutely nails it. Vendor oversight isn't just about ticking security boxes. It's about making dead sure that your partners are rowing in the same direction as you are, both strategically and ethically. So what does good vetting actually look like in practice? Well, it goes way beyond a simple security audit. First off, does their AI strategy actually line up with yours? Do your corporate values match? Second, you have to dig into their ethics, demand transparency. And finally, you have to get granular with the contract. You need rock-solid security controls and, this is critical, you need service-level agreements, or SLAs, that are built specifically for the wild demands of AI workloads. All this talk about vendors and risk brings us to a really powerful tool for getting everyone on the same page, the shared responsibility model. It's designed to kill ambiguity so that critical security tasks don't just fall through the cracks.
At its heart, this model is basically a pact. It's a simple but incredibly powerful framework that draws a clear line in the sand, spelling out exactly who is responsible for what, all the way from the physical locks on the data center door up to who manages end-user passwords.
Let's quickly walk through the three common flavors of this. First up, you've got infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. In this world, you, the customer, are doing most of the heavy lifting. The vendor gives you the raw compute, storage, and networking, and you're on the hook for securing pretty much everything you build on top of it.
Then we move to Platform as a Service, or PaaS. Here, things get a lot more balanced. The provider takes care of the underlying infrastructure, the operating systems, all that stuff, and that frees you up to focus just on your applications and your data. It's a true partnership.
And finally, there's Software as a Service, SaaS. With this one, the provider manages almost the entire stack, the whole shebang. Your job narrows down significantly, but it focuses on the absolutely crucial stuff, like who gets access to the system and how you govern the data you put into it.
And boom, here's a perfect example of how this all comes together in the real world. This is Microsoft's AI shared responsibility model. Take a close look. Across the top, you see the service types we just talked about, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Down the side, you have the AI stack itself, usage, application, platform.
You can literally see how responsibility, that's the stuff in blue, shifts from you, the customer, over to Microsoft as you go from left to right. This is an absolutely indispensable map for figuring out who owns what.
So, understanding these models is step one. That's great. But the next, and honestly most important step, is turning that knowledge into a real, actionable governance strategy for your own company.
And the great news is, we don't have to invent this from scratch. We can lean on incredible industry standards like the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. It gives you a life cycle, a continuous loop for dealing with risk that moves through 4 key stages: govern, map, measure, and manage. This is not a one-and-done checklist. It's a process you live and breathe.
Let's just break that framework down into a simple action plan. Step 1. Govern. This is your foundation. It's about creating a culture where people care about risk and know who's accountable. Step 2 is map. Simple, right? You can't protect what you don't know you have, so you got to identify all your AI systems. Step 3, measure. This is where you analyze and track the risks you found. And finally, step 4 is manage. This is where you take action, you prioritize, and you deal with the biggest threats first.
So there you have it. We've covered the core trade-offs, the models for sharing responsibility, and the industry standard frameworks for managing risk. The real work, of course, starts now. The ultimate question for you isn't if you're going to adopt AI, but how you're going to govern it. Because, let's be honest, an AI strategy without accountability isn't just risky, it's completely unsustainable. You have the tools. The next move is yours.